Buckle up, everyone. Starting tomorrow, we got college football playoff games. And for the first time ever, these college football playoff games are happening on college campuses. And it starts tomorrow night in the state of Indiana. We got an in-state rivalry, Indiana versus Notre Dame. Welcome back. It's Mozarski Memos. You might have saw my TikTok already where I posted my first round predictions. But I'm going to take 15 minutes here in a longer form video to just give out my whole college football bracket prediction. And we'll get into it. College football. Yeah, one of the best sports in America, obviously. So much parity. This year was wild. Only one undefeated team, the Oregon Ducks. Crazy seasons. Travis Hunter winning the Heisman. I could go on and on and on, give my spiel, but let's just get straight into it. So there we go. Here's the bracket just live. I copied and pasted it into Google Slides. I'm not doing too much editing, but did come with a little animations. Yeah, the four conference champions, highest rated from one to four, Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, Arizona State, don't have to play this weekend. We're going to focus right now on these four first round matchups. I posted them on my TikTok. And yeah, let's just get into it very fast. And we're going to start with that in-state rivalry. We got Indiana versus Notre Dame. So for that game, I got the Irish, and here's why. I got three bullets for each. Yeah, this Notre Dame defense is among the best in the country. Everybody knows that. They have stars on every level, dominate the trenches. They're top three in the nation in points per game, and just have been really, really good this season. They've held Texas A&M to 13 points. They held USC. Yeah, USC scored 35. A lot of it was in garbage time. They held this Army offense with Bryson Daly to 14, and they have been killing the teams they play. This Notre Dame defense is one of the best units in the country, led by a really good coach in Marcus Freeman, who just signed an extension there. Second, the strength of schedule for neither team is that hot. I mean, Indiana's best opponent was Ohio State, who beat them by 23, 25, something like that. Notre Dame's best opponent was probably Texas A&M at Kyle Field. Yeah, I just like Notre Dame in the roster here. If you're taking into account strength of schedule, what's Indiana's marquee win? Maybe Washington or something else. Notre Dame's is Texas A&M. Neither of these teams have had two hard schedules. I just like Notre Dame in this scenario, especially at home. And that reason is Riley Leonard is better than Curtis Rourke. I think he has more experience. Curtis Rourke did finish in the top 10 in Heisman voting, but Leonard offers more with his legs. And assuming you're able to get Jeremiah Love, who's one of the better running backs in the country, into the game, I think Notre Dame will be able to run over this Indiana defense. This isn't to say that Indiana defense is bad because they're top 10 in the nation in yards per game allowed, points per game allowed, and all these metrics. What Kurt Cignetti has done in year one in Bloomington should not be taken for granted. I just really like the Irish here. I'm surprised they weren't a higher seed too. Yeah, I like them at home. So that will be the first one. Game number two in Happy Valley, we got Penn State hosting number 11 SMU. I said this in my TikTok. SMU should be a playoff team. Will they beat Penn State? No, they will not. There's a few things. One, this Penn State rush defense is among top 10 in the country, averaging under 100 yards allowed per game. While SMU can run the ball and they have a mobile quarterback in KJ Jennings, and they did show a lot of balls coming back against Clemson, being down, what, 24-7 or something. I just don't think that's enough. I think that the Penn State defense will be able to stifle the SMU offense enough. Second, Drew Aller really improved over the season, and you saw this against an Oregon defense, which isn't all outwardly, but he threw for three touchdowns, four touchdowns, had some really big time throws, and I think there's a lot that you could take from this Oregon game that's good. And even though they did lose, what, by 8, 45 to 37 in a high scoring affair, they went toe to toe with one of the best offenses in the country in a game where a lot of people thought they were going to get boat raced, and they had an opportunity to win the Big Ten, which a lot of people thought they wouldn't have. And third, playoff game in Happy Valley. I mean, this is the stuff you live for. This is why they expanded the playoff. It's just a really tall task for SMU. They've never played in an environment like this. And look, I'm not going to buy so much into it, but this Penn State crowd is going to be electric. It's one of the best in the country, like it always is, 100,000 screaming. It's a very hard task for SMU to overcome. So give me the Nittany Lions there because of the fact that it's in Happy Valley, because of the fact that their offense is playing a lot better, and the fact that their defense should be able to get the stops necessary. Game three, Clemson versus Texas in Texas. Give me the Longhorns. I think the Longhorns cover the 11 here, and I think it's pretty easy. You start with that Texas offense. Yeah, they were not good against Georgia. Quinn Ewers was not good either time against Georgia, but they know how to score points. They've scored at least 20 points in the majority of their games, and they've played in big games this year on the road too. But this one's at home. And Texas is a really, really good team at home. That Georgia game at home that they lost was their lowest scoring one of the season. They have boat raced other teams at home. Mississippi State, Kentucky. I know this isn't cream of the crop SEC teams. They boat raced Oklahoma too. And I know Oklahoma wasn't at DKR, but it was the Cotton Bowl. And so you have a lot of that, and Texas will get the scores because you do have the star players. Quinn Ewers, still one of the better quarterbacks in the country. You have wide receiving core in Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden. You have Jaden Blue. You have other running backs too. Like this Texas team is really, really good. Then the reason this Texas team is really good is because of their defense, which is just so overpowering. Top five in the nation in yards per game allowed and points per game allowed. Allow 12 points a game, which is an absolutely ridiculous stat. Held Georgia to 22 and lost in overtime in the SEC championship. Clemson just isn't at that level. I like Cade Klubnik and I like Phil Maffa. I do think they'll get their fair share of carries and drives, but I don't know if it's going to result in touchdowns. Texas has one of the better red zone defenses in the country, too. And I think that plays a major difference in this. So give me the Longhorns. And just going into the last game, I'm not even going to do a transition. Ohio State should beat Tennessee. Now, this Tennessee team is really good with quarterback Nico Imaleava. Running back Dylan Sampson's one of the best in the country, and I fully believe that. And this Tennessee offensive line is very good at protecting the quarterback and whoever's there. They've had some big wins, right? They beat Alabama at home. They almost beat Georgia, but then Georgia overpowered them. And I think that's the biggest thing. And this is an Ohio State team that has been the center of so much criticism over the past 3 weeks, losing to Michigan for the fourth straight year, scoring 10 points at home. This offense, this defense combined, this roster, $20 million. They are the highest paid roster in America, and they lost to their biggest rival. That sucks. They have motivation in this game. If that's not motivation, I don't know what is. Tennessee is a good team. They have not won a big game on the road. They lost to Georgia. Their other loss this season came to Arkansas on the road. I think going into the shoe is a really hard one. And because of Ohio State is looking to bounce back, I think that'll play a major difference in this. The Buckeye defense is also one of the best in the country. They're first in points allowed per game, third in yards allowed per game. And I think they might be a little overpowering for this Tennessee offense. Tennessee will score points when you have guys like Iamulava and Dylan Sampson, but I think that Ohio State's going to be able to stop them. You have guys up and down the defense that's really good. Jack Sawyer, Lathan Ransom, Cody Simon, Caleb Downs. Yeah, look, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a low scoring affair in a cold game. Tennessee's going to take some time to acclimate, and I think that plays into Ohio State's favor. And with that, there's my first round prediction. We're just going to stop it right there as we move on. All right, I got some little animations here now, but now let's get into round two. So we're going left, right, left, right. Let's start with Oregon, Ohio State. Let me preface this by saying these are two of the best teams in the country. Ohio State should not be the number 8 seed. I know a lot of people have a problem with the format. Oregon ran the table. They didn't only run the table, they boat raced almost everyone, and their reward is they have to play the winner of Ohio State or Tennessee, which are two national championship contenders. And I think they get Ohio State, who at the start of the year was my prediction to win it all. And so if you're the Oregon Ducks, yeah, it's a little upsetting because you see teams like Penn State who get to play Boise State or Texas that gets to play Arizona State, and those are two teams that lost their conference championships. And what does Oregon get? They get to play one of the best rosters in Ohio State. But it is what it is. This is a juggernaut. And I will say this right now on the video. The winner of this, in my opinion, will make the national championship. And I sort of just spoiled it a little. Yeah, stars up and down every lineup. There's a comparison. Dylan Gabriel versus Will Howard. Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson versus Jordan James. Jeremiah Smith versus Tez Johnson, two of the best wide receivers in the country on defense. Jordan Birch, Jack Sawyer, Caleb Downs, Jabbar Muhammad. You could go on and on and on. And here we go with the prediction then, because I just rambled a little because Oregon, Ohio State, I mean, it was such a good game the first time too. Give me the Ducks. I think Oregon's going to beat Ohio State this time. They're going to win the turnover battle. Will Howard threw two terrible interceptions against Michigan. And look, this Michigan defense is really good, and Oregon's defense is fine. But Oregon doesn't turn over the ball. Dylan Gabriel's thrown one interception since November 2nd. That's going to play a difference. This Oregon offense does not make mistakes. And that's why it's so hard for any team to beat them because Oregon is so opportunistic and scores. Even the Big Ten championship against Penn State, Oregon scored 45 points. They didn't turn over the ball. Dylan Gabriel, Heisman finalist, 22 for 32, 283 yards, 4 touchdowns. His completion percentage on the season is over 70%. They have so many weapons and they don't make mistakes. And even against an Ohio State defense, which is, in my opinion, the best in the country, Oregon's going to be able to get their fair share of points. And I mentioned it, right? Dylan Gabriel's better than Will Howard. Will Howard has had some rough games, like that first Oregon game where he slid his time expired, or the Michigan game where he threw two interceptions and didn't score a touchdown. This game, if Ohio State's going to win this game, they have to beat Oregon to 35. Because Oregon has scored at least 30 points in 11 out of their 12 games. The one they didn't was um against Wisconsin on the road. Oh, they actually 10 out of 12. They scored 24 against Idaho in the season opener. Oregon scores points. Ohio State's going to need to keep up with them, and I don't know if they can, but they have the weapons, right? They have Quinshon Judkins, they have Trevion Henderson, they have all these guys, and I think it makes a difference. Oregon's just going to score and they make less mistakes, they win the game. Moving to the right side, Georgia versus Notre Dame. Give me the Bulldogs. I think regardless of who's at quarterback, whether it is Carson Beck, which I don't think it's going to be, it sounds like he's out for a while. It's going to be Gunnar Stockton. Georgia's been here. They've been in these playoff environments. Notre Dame played a game. Georgia has an extra week to prepare. Kirby Smart's one of two active coaches in the NCAA to win a national championship. It's a tall task for Notre Dame, which is in the playoff for the first time in a while. Gunnar Stockton was fine too against Texas. They were able to move the ball. They scored 16 points. Georgia was scoreless at halftime. And then, yeah, Stockton played well. The way Notre Dame wins this game is if Riley Leonard uses his legs because this Georgia defense struggles with read options and with the running game. You have one of the best running backs in the country in Jeremiah Love. Riley Leonard, going back to his time at Duke, he's always been able to use his legs well. Look at how Haynes King and Georgia Tech were able to score 42 points against Georgia. Georgia could not stop the read option. If Notre Dame does read options in this game, they have a genuine chance to win. But Georgia's been here before. I think that makes a difference. Bottom left, Texas, Arizona State. Give me the Longhorns. Texas's defense is way too overpowering. I'm not going to drop the metrics again. You just know they're one of the best off or defenses in the country. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Big 12 type of game. Arizona State scored 45 in the Big 12 championship against um, Iowa State. They have Sam Levitt at quarterback. Obviously, their biggest guys, Cam Scatterby, who's a stud, probably top three running back in the country, scored 3 touchdowns against Iowa State in that route. They're one of the best stories in college football, predicted to finish last in the Big 12, now in the college football playoff. Yeah, I just don't think they're beating Texas. Texas's defense is way too good. And regardless of how many points Arizona State could score, I don't think they could get the stops necessary. Look, Arizona State does have stars, right? Cam Scatterby, Jordan Tyson, Sam Levitt's a good quarterback. Texas just has way too much, and they belong here. They're just a better team, and then their defense. If they win, it's gonna be because of that. And then last, Boise State, Penn State. Give me Penn State. Boise State has the best player in the college football playoff in Ashton Jeanty. Almost broke Barry Sanders' record. I could go on and on and that. Penn State has the athleticism to stop him, and then it goes on Maddox Madsen, Boise State's quarterback. Is he able to make the throws? I don't know. This Penn State defense has always been flying around. James Franklin should have a game plan, and I think that plays a difference. Boise State gives up points. They give up over 20 points a game, over 30 points sometimes. And Penn State's able to score. You saw this in the Oregon game with Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, whoever you want to throw out there, they know how to score. And so I think that plays a difference. If Boise State's going to win this game, Ashton Genty's going to have to run for 250 yards, which is totally possible. But is that enough against Penn State? We'll see. And that gets me to the final four, which is Oregon, Georgia, Texas, and Penn State. Not much more recording here, but you see it on the screen. Oregon versus Texas in the semifinals. Yeah, this is one of the best games you could ask for. And I gave 3 reasons why each team could win before going to my prediction. Let's start with the number one seeded Ducks. They'll win if they because they have the better offense at all levels. Dylan Gabriel's better than Quinn Ewers. Jordan James is better than Texas's running game. And the three-headed monster of Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart, and Trayshawn Holden is better than Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden and Hunter Helm for Texas. And I think that makes a major difference. They make less mistakes. Quinn Ewers turns over the ball. Threw 2 against Georgia last week. Has thrown multiple interceptions in big games, and Texas doesn't have that marquee win. I think that plays a difference. And 3, Oregon's just a wagon. If they're able to get by Ohio State, I think that that is going to be their hardest game. I really do. Wagon, wagon, wagon. They do not make mistakes. I don't know if Texas could catch up. A reason Texas could catch up, though, is because of this defense, which is among the top in the country in every single metric imaginable. If Quinn Ewers plays well and improves, like he's had some good games this season, just not the Georgia ones, then they'd have a chance. And 3, better team in the trenches. Texas almost won the Joe Moore Award. So did Oregon, but I think Texas has a better defensive line too. And yeah, the trenches play a big difference. Oregon's going to win this game. I'm going to keep it short and sweet because they make less mistakes. They have a better offense at all levels. And I don't know if Texas could keep up to them unless the defense gets stops. But this Oregon offense is such a well-oiled machine, and that plays such a huge difference in these games. And I think that they are going to win this game. Moving on. Georgia versus Penn State. I only put 2 reasons Penn State could win because I feel like if Carson Beck is back, Georgia is the clear favorite. Beck has been good in his past 3 games before the SEC championship. The Tennessee game, Georgia Tech and UMass, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. Carson Beck's biggest problem was turnovers this year, right? Threw three in the win at Texas, threw three in that loss at Alabama, threw one or two in that loss at Ole Miss. But if he's back and better, then Georgia is clearly a better team, and they win that quarterback battle over Penn State and Drew Aller. Georgia has a lot of speed at the wide receiver position, and that causes trouble. Look at Penn State's two losses this year to Ohio State and to Oregon. Two of the best receiving corps in the country, right? I just talked about Oregon. Ohio State's receiving corps of Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, whoever else you want to throw there, Emeka Ibuka, who for some reason I blanked out on for a second. They caused trouble. And Penn State only let Ohio State score 20 points. Georgia's different SEC offense. They had Arian Smith, Dominic Lovett, Dylan Bell. I don't know if Penn State could keep up with that. And third, Georgia's been here. I used that already, but I do think that plays a difference against a Penn State team that has always struggled to get over the hump. And now they're here against a team that's won two national championships in the last 3 years. And I think that plays a difference. Penn State could win this game because their offense can score and their defense gets enough stops. But I don't know if that's the case. And just going off that, Georgia's going to win this game. And so that sets up the national championship of Georgia versus Oregon, the one versus two. I know it's a lot of chalk, but I think these are two of the best teams in the country. I think there's four teams that could win it all. I think it's Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas. I've had these conversations. And look, I didn't come up with a major slide about why one team's going to win. I'm just going to go straight into it. Give me the Oregon Ducks to win it all. I've liked them since week 3. I've liked them since they beat Oregon State 49-14 and they started boat racing team after team after team. They beat Ohio State 32-31. They beat Illinois 38-9. They won the Big Ten in their first year there. Dan Lanning is a psychopath. By the way, best story in this game, Dan Lanning, Georgia defensive coordinator, first game as Oregon head coach, got rocked by Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs. Now they're here. This Oregon team's different. And I think they win in every roster battle against most teams in the country. Dylan Gabriel, Heisman finalist at quarterback. James and this offense, the offensive line won the Joe Moore Award. Or not won it, they got there. They were a finalist. The defense has not been great. I understand that. But their secondary is 5 transfers, including Jabbar Muhammad, who played in the national championship last year for Washington. You have linebackers like Jeffrey Bossa and Jordan Burch. You'll be able to get to the quarterback. And look, I just used the whole Georgia's been here and stuff, but when you're a team as well oiled as Oregon, I don't think that's going to be too much of a difference. Oregon does not make mistakes. Georgia turns the ball over, whether it is Gunnar Stockton or Carson Beck, and I think that plays a major difference in this game. And I just think this Oregon team's a team of destiny. I really do. I think they have it all. I think they've been killing every team they play. Penn State was 8, but it should have been more. And I know I said Penn State played well, and they did. Oregon is the best team in the country, and I think they show it. And so I'll leave it at that. All right, everyone, the 2025 national champions, the Oregon Ducks. Thank you so much for listening if you got here. I know it's a lot of me rambling, but I did put some metrics in and other predictions, and we'll see what happens. But I really like the Ducks this year, and let's see how it all plays out.